Okay, hello and welcome. And in this video, we're going to look at creating software, which is a topic I'm hugely passionate about. It's been really one of the most exciting things I've done in the last decade of my life is understanding how to create software. It's had a huge impact on my business, and it's also had a huge impact on my personal life. And just really excited about introducing you to the world of software. Fundamentally, though, software is, I think, the path to the really big money with info products. So when you see screenshots like this splashed around, either by me or by my students, it's largely because of software. I don't think I'd be able to generate the income that I've generated if I wasn't selling software, if I was just relying on selling ebooks. Apart from that, though, creating software isn't just the path to the big money, the thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars per day. It's also the path to the really huge money in the 21st century. So, all the major tech companies, the software companies, all the world's biggest companies nowadays are really software companies. So it's just a great skill to focus on and to try and understand. So what's the case for building and selling software instead of selling other types of ebooks and video, other types of digital products such as ebooks and video? Well, firstly, if you look at the FANGs as they're called, i.e. Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google, they're basically all software companies, and they're valued collectively at well over $1 trillion. That's where the money is heading in the 21st century. It's moving towards software. But it's not just about the huge companies, it's also about small individuals like myself who are making anywhere from $100,000 to $10 million in 2018, and predominantly, I think, doing it by selling software. Mark Anderson, who's the founder of Netscape and a very prominent investor in Silicon Valley, has a phrase which is software is eating the world. In other words, every industry, every business type is being automated and is being gobbled up by these Silicon Valley companies and by software developers such as myself and hopefully yourself, who are really changing the industry and changing every kind of industry and every type of business. And so the idea that software is eating the world and is changing everything, I think this is definitely going to be a strong reason that you're going to want to get on the side of the ones doing the eating as opposed to the ones who are being eaten. So we definitely want to be the predator and not the prey. And this is going to continue for the foreseeable future, well into the next 10 years, probably into the next 20, 50, or 100 years. So essentially, the next 10 billionaires, the next 90 of the next 100 millionaires created in the world are going to come, I think, or a large percentage of them are going to come from software. So it stands to reason that it's a very good skill for us to learn about. And you can see that I'm genuine about this because building software is really the one skill that I'm going to want my kids to learn in the future. So they can choose to be interested in this, they can choose to be interested in that, but really I think I'm going to be very insistent that I try and get them to learn about software because it's just something that is going to be a massively useful skill to have. So for many people, irrespective of the general trends and some of the big numbers and some of the bigger picture issues, fundamentally, apart from anything else, selling software is going to be the fastest path, I believe, for you to hit six figures or even seven figures. And this is especially true for the internet marketing space where the vast majority of the most successful products are software products. On JVZoo, they're pretty much all software products. ClickBank and Warrior Plus, you will see a lot more ebooks than software. And software, of course, doesn't always apply to every niche. It generally applies extremely well to internet marketing. It does apply to other technical niches such as trading and things like that. You'll see less software in niches like dieting or dating or things like that, but I still think there's potential use to have software in those niches, and I've actually looked at developing software in some of those niches, such as I had one called Autodata, which was basically like a dating management system. It would send out like automated messages and basically help promote your dating profile within one of the major dating platforms. Now that one never saw the light of day, but it's still very much possible to create software in niches other than internet marketing. So how do we build software that we can actually sell? Well, firstly, you'll remember that you can, of course, sell a guide or an ebook or training videos to start off with. After all, I grossed well over $2 million before I even sold my first software back in 2007. So I was, doing very well with ebooks. Now, internet marketing was very different back then, sort of around 2008ish. It really started to move towards software, and if you weren't selling software, and also video sort of came in around that time, so it changed from being long text sales letters that were selling ebooks to video and much more visual kind of sales letters that were selling software. So, it was different back then, in particular in the internet marketing space. But I still made a load of money selling ebooks, so don't get me wrong, okay? That being said, though, software will command a higher value, a higher high sale price. It will convert better in pretty much every single niche than ebooks. People are kind of in awe of software. They're impressed if you can create a software tool, and quite frankly, they're not going to be able to do a quick Google search and find the information out there for a software tool. There is always in the back of people's minds the idea that they can go and probably find the information somewhere else for free. They're not going to be able to do that with software. So software really will beat an ebook in any niche. And if you think about it, if a software will automate what the ebook is teaching, of course it stands to reason that it's better to give someone a tool which will automate something than to teach them how to do the thing themselves. So software for that reason is going to sell better than an ebook. And also, software is more complicated to do, but it doesn't mean you should avoid it. It's just higher cost in terms of time, in terms of money, and higher reward. And luckily, though, I'm going to show you a few ways that you can start selling software quite easily. So in a nutshell, here are the kind of fundamental ways to do it. Firstly, we have JV Valley, which, as you know, allows you to white label and relicense existing softwares and scripts. We have the software generator, which allows you to turn any CSV into a cloud-based software tool. And we also have APIs, which I'm going to talk about, which are basically existing services that other people have built software for that we can connect to with our own software and leverage all of the work that they've done, all of their technology, and roll it into our own software without having to go to the trouble of building all of that stuff. So for example, Facebook has an API, we can connect to that and upload stuff on Facebook. Google Search has an API, so we can use Google Search within our own applications without having to go and build our own search engine. Google Maps is kind of split up into a few different APIs now, so we can connect to that and embed maps within our applications. Amazon, Twitter, pretty much every type of major software company has an API of some kind that we can essentially leverage and build their technology into our platform. Another method I'm going to talk about and probably give a demonstration of actually is vague Upwork briefs. You'll notice I put the word vague here because what we're going to do is post up a brief without fully understanding whether we can build the software, or indeed how we can build the software that we want to create, and hopefully find people who can explain how it can be done, or can at the very least say, yes, I've done something similar in the past. And so really with this method we can go from having a rough idea of the kind of tool that we want to build without having a very clear, very specific brief, and post something up on Upwork, and within a day or two get people coming back saying, yes, I can do it, here's exactly how we'll do this, I've done this before, I can handle everything, just pay me a couple of $1,000s and we can get this done. Fundamentally though, I'd like you to start with the easy ways that we can create software and then gradually roll out to the more complex ways. So learning how to develop software is perhaps the most valuable skill that I've learned in the last decade of my life. So it's something that's really, really valuable, very financially valuable skill to have, and also personally quite fulfilling as well. So here are the fastest ways to create software. Now luckily with Daydrop Killer you have many software creation methods that even the top JVZoo and ClickBank vendors have no idea about. Okay, so a lot of the top guys on ClickBank and JVZoo who create software don't know the stuff that I'm teaching you now. So you've probably bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of software tools from other people who are more clueless than you'll be after watching this video. Or more clueless than you are now, let alone once you finish this video. So this information I'm about to share with you is, really golden stuff that no one else, very few people in the world really know about, certainly within the internet marketing space. So the first thing that we can do is we can use well, it's actually called the auto software tool, the software generator now, but we can use the software generator to create instant software tools for any niche market, and that's something that I'll discuss within within the software generator video. Secondly, we can find a developer on Code Canyon who has already created a tool and either JV with them or license their tool and get them to rebrand it and then launch it. And that's something that I talk about in the JV Valley video. Thirdly, what I want to demonstrate now though is that we can post on Upwork and ask someone to create a software tool like Software X. Okay, so we can basically say, and these are actually really one method here, I'm not sure why I did them as two separate ones. We can basically say, look, I want to create a tool like XYZ. Or I want you to create a software that's similar to this, or a software that does this roughly. And they can come back and give you the information as to how that's possible, and also give you not just technically how it's possible, but actually say, look, I've done this before. This is how we do this. I've already built something very similar to this. It's very, very easy for me to do it. So in a lot of cases, you're going to get people coming back who have already done the groundwork. So we're just going to post the shop brief up, and they're going to come back with some detailed ideas. Now I'll show you exactly an exact example of a brief that we can just post up now on Upwork. Like I say, be proactive posting on Upwork, okay? I've posted hundreds and hundreds of projects up on Upwork and Elance back when it was Elance. Very often the developers will actually teach you how to do things. So you'll go in with an assumption, look, I want to build a software that roughly does this. Please tell me how it's done, or more accurately tell me how you would do it. They'll then come back with a load of information, and sometimes they'll say, look, I've done this a million times, it's actually very easy. Here's an example of a software I built, link. Here's another example, here are some screenshots of some other software tools. Here's how we'll do it, no problem whatsoever. Other times you'll have people who will come back to you and say, this is insane, this can't be done. Add another 2 zeros to your budget and maybe we can talk then. You really don't know until you put something up on Upwork, but very often the developers will actually direct you, and you may actually go back and come either take no action, not hire anyone, but then come back later on with a more refined brief that takes into consideration the information that you've been fed by the developers. So the developers will teach you as you go along exactly how this works. So in terms of typical cost to create a software, custom software can cost anywhere from $1,000 up to $5,000. So for that reason, you may want to do this as product number 2, 3, and 4. So you may decide that for the first one you're going to use the software generator. Sorry, like I say, I've put its former name here, the one-click software builder, but you may decide to use a software generator. You may decide to find JV opportunities to license some JV Valley. And then once or maybe even do videos and ebooks, and then once you've actually made some money, you'll then come back to creating your own custom software. For your first product, maybe you're better doing some cheap software, maybe an ebook, maybe some videos, and then once you've got some traction and you're making some money at that point, you can come and do some custom software. But I do at least want to show you how it works. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to create lead pages, a tool similar to lead pages. So this is me on the lead pages website. It basically is a software that has templates built in, and you can web design templates, you can edit those templates. So let me just click on preview template. You can edit the templates, so you can edit any of this within the editor, and you can then, and you can see there's tons of them over here. Well, actually you can, it's just off the screen, but you can then edit them and upload them to your own website basically. So this is like a webinar one. Let's just have a quick look at this. And so you can see how the template works. You can edit all this, replace the images, edit the text, etc, etc. So that's the basic idea of lead pages, and very, very successful business. If I just go back to the home page, I think it said there 44,000 businesses trust lead pages every single day. If I click on pricing, you can see it's like $50 per month, from $25 to $200 per month. So this is the most popular. So if we take the 48 number and we multiply it by, was it 44,000? So 48 times 44,000. So it's generating, can't have done that right, let's try again. So 40, let's just put 48,000 and 44, so it's doing about $2 million probably per month. So this is a 25, maybe 30, maybe even $40 million business, which is basically a landing page, lead page software. And that's essentially all this is. So one of those things, I was quite frustrated I didn't sort of run with something like this myself. And we actually have built software tools similar to this previously. In fact, I'll save that for later on actually. But anyway, let's say that we wanted to create a similar tool to this, because this type of tool, this like a website builder tool, would sell in the internet marketing space. It would sell within JVZoo, it would sell within ClickBank, and it's possible to create this type of tool. It might not be as powerful as lead pages, but it is possible. So let me show you exactly how we put a brief up on Upwork for a software. Let's say that we wanted to create a website builder tool. How exactly would we go about doing that? Well, we would basically go to Upwork and do something like this. So firstly, tell us that, so we just click on jobs, post a job. So tell us the type of work you want done. We'll go with a few options here. Web development. We'll name the job post and we'll call it web builder or web page builder software. Similar to lead pages, ClickFunnels, etc. And then I'm going to put cloud-based, server-based. Okay. So the first thing you'll see is I've described in the title of the brief, I've described the actual name of the type of the product. So I've put web page builder software. If it was a video creation tool, I'd put video creation tool. But what we want is a web page builder. I've then put similar to lead pages, ClickFunnels, because I want anyone that has done anything like that in the past to see this and click through. I don't want them to think that this is, you know, a different type of web page builder. I want anyone who thinks they can do that to see the title and go, yeah. And then finally I've put cloud-based, server-based, because if you remember, that's the type of tool that lead pages is, just like many of my other tools, where it's a web-based one. So you'll log in to lead pages, you log in over here, log in, and you access the whole thing within your browser. So we call that cloud-based and server-based. So I click next and it's going to ask me what are we looking for. So what we want is front-end web application development. So I'll click on that and then I'll click on next. Create a new job, we've already done that. So we've already named our job posting. Now let's write our actual brief. So, hello, I would like you to create a web page building tool which will build web HTML web pages. The software will be cloud/server based, and here is roughly how it will work. Step 1, you select templates, web page templates. Step 2, you edit the pages within your browser, brackets, changing images, text, etc. Step 3, you download the edited templates from the software. So very, very, very simple. I've literally just described what Lead Pages does. I've not used any technical terms. I could have written something here like, oh, the only technical term I've used is cloud-based and server-based, just so I'm going to get a browser-based tool back. But other than that, I've literally just described Lead Pages. So it's possible that anyone who's watching this could write this brief. Okay, so I'm not using anything complicated to describe this. The tool should function similar, and this is a key part of the brief. Okay, the tool should function similar to Lead Pages, ClickFunnels, etc., and many popular website builder tools. So, a few important things that we've said here. That's the most important bit. I've said, and if those tools weren't so popular, then I would actually just say, I'd actually just do this and copy the link and paste the link in here. So please see, and then same thing, put the link to ClickFunnels in as well, whatever that is. And then what we want to do now is say, and this is really important, please describe how you intend to create this software. Please also describe similar software you have created in the past. Or please, let me just change that, please give examples. Please reply with, or please also reply with estimated cost and timescales. Thanks. And that's literally it. So those last three sentences are really the main things. So you can see the introduction just very much describes what the project is, very simply. And then we give them a few examples of other software that's sold that we want to create, that we want to do a similar software tool to. And then we've said, please describe how you intend to create this software. And what's going to happen here is they're going to come back and say something like this: I will use a web builder API called blah blah blah, which is free for the first 100 users, and then it charges this. For the templates, do you want to supply those, or should I get those created, etc., etc., etc. So they're going to give you a load of information. They're going to come back with a load of information as to how the software should be done, the kind of languages that are going to be used, the kind of technology that's going to be deployed. They're going to basically tell you how to create your project, whether it's feasible, exactly how it's going to be done. Then the second important thing that I've put here is please give examples of similar software you have created in the past. So occasionally what does happen is, obviously for a company this size it's not going to happen, but occasionally you will find that the person who created the tool that you're giving as an example is the person who's going to read this and reply to this. Much in the same way that when we reach out to people on JV Valley, all they need to do is rebrand the tool. Obviously it's going to be pretty easy for someone who's created an existing software tool to then make a slightly different version of that software tool. And there may be reasons that they can't give you the exact software tool. They may not own all the rights, of course, they may have passed that on, but it's still going to be very, very easy for someone who's created a similar tool, has already done all the hard work, to then take that and just give you a modified version of that. So this is a really, really important question as well. Please give examples of similar software you've created in the past. So this question is going to get them to tell you about the technology so you understand it better, and then anything they say to you, you can go ahead and Google it and understand it, or ask them more questions. And then this question here is really going to find the people who are going to be best suited for the job, simply because they've already done it, they've already done all the groundwork. And then finally, we're going to put please reply with estimated cost and timescales. And obviously this is going to determine whether or not we actually decide to hire that person as well. So this very, very simple brief where we just outline the nature of the tool, and then we give them a few examples, and then we ask them how they're going to create the software, ask for examples of similar tools they've created, and the cost and timescales is pretty much the kind of standard post that I'll put up. So if it's a video creation tool, I'll put something like this up and just change, video creation will go here. Uh, a few examples of sales letters, of internet marketing sales letters from video products will go here. Obviously change the references here. And then the rest at the bottom, the close will pretty much stay the same. Tell me how you're going to do it, what the technologies involved are, give me examples of similar tools you've created, and reply with costs and estimates. In terms of just filling out the rest of the stuff and what type of project, it's going to be a one-time project. What do you want to do? Actually, this is, I think we may actually have chosen the wrong, it's not, so yeah, it's actually not web application development here, it's actually going to be something slightly different, because it's asking me, basically this is integrating web pages. So let's just put in software. How many freelancers do you want to hire? I want to hire one freelancer. Where are you in the life cycle of this project? You know what, I'm actually just going to pause this and find the correct section. Hey guys, back again. So I do apologise for that. This is just Upwork's silly kind of, I don't know why they do this. I think I complained about this in a previous video, that they force you into a specific category, which is kind of irritating. But anyway, we're kind of on the right track. What we want to do here is where it says tell us what type of work you want done. We want to click on web development, which was right, but then we'll give it a name, and I'm just going to call this, in fact, let's even start this all again. So let's just copy all this over, paste that in, click on next, and then here where it says what you're looking for, we want to go with full stack web development. And the issue before was we chose front end web application development, which is basically just like the design. We want full stack, so we want someone that's actually going to create the software behind the design. So we click on next, just like we were before, and it's going to bring us to that same page, and then we can basically just copy and paste the description that we had before. And we're now back to where we should be. So what type of project do you have? One-time project. Which of the following do we want to do? Develop a website from scratch. Where are we here? I have an idea. Are we experienced? And obviously you'll click no because you're not. Which are the two most important languages the freelancer should know? You can leave this blank. Generally it's going to be involving PHP in most cases, but you're going to restrict your options if you put anything here, so I just leave this blank. You can see it's got a list of skills here. If we're going to go with one, we'll go with PHP. In this case, it's going to use HTML and web design, so we can click those as well. If this was a WordPress theme, we'd be clicking WordPress. We'll also go with website development, and we'll leave it at that. What do we want to pay? Well, we'll pay a fixed price. This is just a suggested budget, so whatever you put in here, it doesn't mean that you'll definitely be paying that price. You'll get people bidding much more, people bidding much less. Generally, like I say, it can cost anywhere from $1,000 up to $1,500 for software. And bear in mind as well that you may decide to, put this brief up, get a load of responses, go back, amend the brief, and then put up a new brief. So, we're not locked into this number by any means. But for this one, I'm going to go with a budget of $1,500, which sounds about right. We'll click on intermediate. Only Upwork users can find this job. Like I say, that's going to stop your listing appearing in Google, which is going to stop other people from finding it, basically. And then we can leave everything else as it is, click on post job, and that's going to post this brief up on Upwork and hopefully get us a load of people responding who can create our software. So these are really the kind of three core options for creating software. Obviously use the software generator, use the JV Valley tool, and then post up a brief on Upwork which basically says, I want you to create a software like XYZ, see what they come back with, and then you can take it from there essentially. So those are the three kind of easiest methods, but beyond that, I also want you to think long term and consider digging deep into software, which, like I say, I consider one of the most, if not the most, valuable skill of the 21st century. So here's how to really dig deep and go beyond just quickly creating some software tools. Firstly, research software tools that currently sell. So research and save a list of JVZoo products that you like the look of, and ClickBank products as well. And in the case of ClickBank, you want to search software on the CB5000 to find software tools. And then look to create or license a similar software tool the easy way, which essentially is going to mean either the software generator or going to JV Valley and searching for software that matches JV's, the products that you found on JVZoo and ClickBank. Step 3, which is really the more advanced part of things, is try to understand how these tools were built. So the search that you'll want to run is this here, which is site:/upwork.com, and then put the keyword of the software you want to create and then the word software. So let me, for example, just go over to this here and let's run the search. Well, that's quite funny because I put XXX, we've got this here. But so this would be a brief for a video distribution website in the adult niche. But let's put video creation software. And here we go, technical video creation, online video audio editing software that creates YouTube content. So let me just click on this and see what this guy's saying. So this person here posted up looking for a software developer for an API software-based website companion mobile app that and then creates channel content videos to post YouTube using a built-in text-to-speech tool, auto video recorder, and it lists all these different things. It's basically a brief for a YouTube video software tool, so you can kind of understand, like what he's wanting from reading this, and then every so often you'll come across a phrase like API, mobile app, text-to-speech. That's a whole thing in itself. Audio recorder, video editor, post scheduler. So you'll see these terms, RSS feed aggregator, and you'll think, wait a second, what does that mean? And then you can go ahead and do the search for it, Google around it, understand those terms, and just generally use this as an opportunity to understand how other people are hiring and creating software using Upwork. So it's definitely useful. Another thing you can do is you can search Amazon for technical terms and try to look inside books. So for example, let's say we just ran that search there with the Upwork. We found this guy here and he says the first line, looking for a software developer for an API software. And you think, wait a second, what's API? So if you go over to Amazon and you can click on, go over to books, put API in, and then you'll end up with books like this that come up. Maybe you decide to buy the book, maybe you decide to just have a quick look at it. But what you can do is you can click on the book, and for some of them, it's not doing it for this one, but for some of them you'll have an option to look inside the book. So I don't know if you can see that, look inside. We can click on the image and we can then read through parts of the book. Now, not all of the book will obviously be visible for free. I mean, this is a free Kindle book anyway, but parts of it will be. So, for example, introduction. APIs are a big part of the web. In 2013, etc., etc., etc. So it's going to give you some information about that particular topic. So using this function on Amazon, the look inside function, can be really, really useful to understand topics for free, and then if you like the book you can go ahead and buy it. Like I say, consider throwing up a brief on Upwork that says make a tool like lead pages, make a tool like this, make a tool like that. And initially you're going to start off creating software the easy way. Try and shift away from just creating software the easy way without understanding it, to try and move towards understanding how the tools were built, what the different terms are, what the technology is. And it's going to take you some time to do that. But remember as well, I'm here to help you with any technical questions you do have. So ask me. This is something that I do. This is my bread and butter, creating software. I'm more than happy to help out. Just want to finish up as well with a few technical software terms that may be useful. So don't worry too much about these, okay? I almost decided not to include these because I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want you thinking, geez, this is so complicated. There's so much technical stuff here. It's really not that bad once you get the hang of it. And like I say, probably 90% of JVZoo vendors who do sell software don't know this stuff, So they just have a software guy. They say, make me some software that does this. A lot of them license software from Code Canyon, so you don't have to go this deep, but I would prefer it if I at least gave you the option to do that. So first term you'll hear thrown around is cloud-based software, which is basically just software that can run in the browser. So I have a lot of software where you go to you load it up in the browser and it runs on you can load it within a browser. It's basically just software that exists on a web server, just like a website can be accessed, via the web. It sits on a web host, it's hosted by a host, and then you visit it in your browser. It's the exact same thing. It just happens to be software. So if you were to look at the code on that server, you wouldn't see HTML files and web pages. You'd see PHP files, and they'd be filled with code. So you'll also hear it referred to as server-based or browser-based software. Typically with cloud-based software, the programming language is PHP, but don't worry too much about that. For desktop-based software, i.e. downloadable software that people can run on their PC and Macs, typically the language that is used in a lot of cases nowadays is Adobe Air. I don't recommend you focus on downloadable software just because there can be compatibility issues and there's not as many developers available to do it. So I do suggest you focus on cloud-based software. Resale rights, white labeling, rebranding, it's basically talking about licensing software from an existing third party, i.e. a software programmer or developer who's already built the software, and we can license it from them. APIs are basically software that you can connect to, which then sends information back to you, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Libraries are basically self-contained software that can be licensed and put inside your software. So unlike an API where you basically connect to it and it doesn't exist within your software, it exists somewhere else, and your software sends it a request and gets some information back. With a library, it's actually inside your software. So if you ever hear a developer say, I need to install this library inside the software, that's what they're referring to. It's like a self-contained tool that exists within your tool. So I've given you those two quick tips. Go to Amazon and look inside some books. Run this search, site:/upwork.com, and then whatever word you want to look at, followed by the word software. So video creation software, website building software, etc. And try and understand how other people hire on Upwork. But really, if out of all these terms here, if there's one intermediate software topic I suggest you look at, it's APIs. So an API is basically a way to connect to another software tool and extract some kind of information or some kind of knowledge from that software tool. So just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, let's go over to Traffic Titan. And if I just scroll down, you can see we come to some of the software tools. We have Niche Money, we have Keyword Titan, and for example, we have Website to Image. This was built using a completely custom software tool. This doesn't involve any APIs. It wasn't licensed from anyone. We built this from scratch. This one is a downloadable software tool that again was built from scratch with one of my developers who does downloadable tools. This one here was built with an API. It was built with an API for domain names, and so when you run a search on Domain Novelli, we actually connect to that API and they run the searches for us. It's actually the Whois XML API, but if you just search domain name API, then there'll be lots of options that come up. So those searches are powered by a third party. This is a WordPress theme, which again was built from scratch, and this was another custom software tool, and then this one was built with a software generator, and then this one was built from scratch, and then this one was licensed from someone in Code Canyon. But what I want to talk about anyway is the Keyword Titan tool, because this uses an API, and the API that we use is SEMrush. So if I Google SEMrush API and I start to have a look through what the options that we have here, you can see that with the API we can basically connect and start to run searches basically. So for example, we have one here which is the domain overview, which provides live or historical data on a domain's keyword rankings. So basically we can see how a domain is ranked over time, and it's going to give us a description with an example. It's going to show us kind of how that search operates, with a little example at the end of the kind of data that we could get back. So we could ask for information on SEO book, and it would then give us its the rank of it, so a rank of 40,000, the number of organic keywords that show up for that domain, the number of the amount of organic traffic it gets, the organic costs, the number of AdWords keywords, all this kind of stuff. And these guys have spent like millions, tens of millions of dollars building up all this data. We can just come in and for as little as like $10, or I think it's like $70 for a pro account, and then you can then pay for like, it's like, I think it's something like $20 for a million calls or something. So very, very cheap to basically leverage all of their data. And that's one of the tools. That's how Keyword Titan is powered. So that's an example of what's possible with APIs. But really, if you just go to Google and just search a list of APIs, you'll see there are just tons and tons of them. So we've got the domain name APIs, like I mentioned. We have Facebook have got an API. GeoNames have got an API for finding domain names. WordPress, Google Maps, shopping APIs. There are just tons and tons of these APIs. You can see we've got Google Maps, so we could build a software that uses Google Maps within the software. We wouldn't need to go to the trouble of building our own map database. We could just use Google's own technology, build it into our software, put our own spin on it, of course, and add value, but basically leverage off all the hard work that they've done. Twitter have an API, YouTube have an API which we've used in the past. Flickr have got one. We actually used this YouTube API for the Tube Titans tool, which is in Video Titan. Twilio, which I think is for sending text messages, so you can connect with them, build a software that automatically sends text messages. Last.fm, music. Bing Maps, Bing Search, they've actually got one for Bing Search as well, so that you can connect with Bing Search and basically have search engine technology built in. There's just tons and tons of them, and if I just scroll back up to the top, you'll see we have the option to filter by category. So let's say I wanted to look at advertising APIs, for example. And we can run searches. You can see there's like 19,000 of them. But advertising APIs, we've got Amazon, so we can use this, connect with Amazon's API as well. Google AdSense, Google AdWords, there's just tons and tons and tons of these. Facebook ads, we could, anytime you see like a Facebook software that's been sold in JBZoo, it's using the Facebook API. Tools to connect with Microsoft Bing. There's just tons and tons and tons of different options here. So if there's one intermediate software topic I suggest you dig into, it's APIs. It's the fastest way to build really, really awesome software tools, and because you're basically leveraging off the software that other people have built. So you can leverage off Google, you can leverage off YouTube, you can leverage off almost any major company will have an API that allows you to use their technology within your own platform. And what you can do, which is really cool, is you can actually combine them. So you can have, a single software that uses the YouTube API, uses the Google API, and maybe uses another API, pulls data from all of them, and then puts them into one single page within your software. Another benefit to this, of course, is it's cheaper to do because you're just going to be using, their technology. So from a developer's point of view, it's going to be quite easy to do. You can maybe get a software built for like $500 or even $1,000. if all it's doing is leveraging other people's software and putting it into a kind of a self-contained tool, but it's really built off other people's software. So quite a big video, lots of different things to kind of cover that we've gone through. Hopefully this has been useful. Lots and lots of stuff that we've covered. Definitely recommend you start to dive into software. Start off nice and small, but then gradually look to roll out into the more powerful ways to create software once you've kind of locked down the faster ways to do it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.